Beer and a salad.
Por favor, una caña y patatas bravas.
Grandad, did you know that when you cook broccoli for over 15 minutes, you lose over half of its vitamin C?
What icon? I've already tried that.
The problem is you haven't got enough memory. If you close down some of the applications and then reboot, that'll sort you out, okay?
Sometimes you can surprise yourself by just how much you know. For more details on BBC programmes that get you thinking, check out our website or see facts page 634.
From the land of Genghis Khan.
Mongolians are incredibly welcoming people.
From one bout of madness to another.
Hitler. I think he basically got dictators a bad name.
From motor mouth to motor cars.
It had something, you know, it was a groover.
With a Top Gear rally report at 10:30. That's tomorrow evening's lineup on BBC2.
It's turning into one of those shifts for Charlie in Casualty on BBC1 in 5 minutes. It came to symbolise the East-West standoff. The Berlin Wall is the subject of Cold War in 10 minutes here on BBC2, after the week in print is reviewed by Nigella Lawson.
Tonight's What the Papers Say is about a Prime Minister who nearly went to war and a Prince who can't stop partying. This week, What the Papers Say is presented by Nigella Lawson from The Observer. Good evening. It would be cheering to feel that all the fuss about war last week...
Debate in the House of Commons came to a halt as the Speaker, Betty Boothroyd, called on MPs to stand. More than 200 MPs present, including Tony Blair and opposition leaders, bowed their heads as Big Ben struck.
Would have some effect on the sabre rattling in the Gulf this week, but no. What started on the day after Armistice Day as a US initiative...
Stealth jets head for Saddam showdown.
...had grown into the prospect of full-scale war by the start of Let's Forget All About the War Dead Day, which is traditionally celebrated the day after that final last post is sounded. But by the time the boys had stopped rattling their sabres and started thumping them on the floor, it had grown from being a merely Iraqi-American problem.
Blair tells Saddam,
"Time's up."
Tony Blair last night rejected outright a last-ditch attempt by Saddam Hussein to prevent a military blitz on Baghdad, as America called off a B-52 bomber attack on Iraq as the planes were in the air.
Hold on, let's see if I got this right. America calls off the bomber attack, but plucky little Tommy Blair stood firm.
This is your last chance.
Blair warned Saddam. Tony Blair warned Saddam Hussein last night that if he made one false step, airstrikes would go ahead. In a fierce response to an apparent 11th hour backdown by the Iraqi dictator, the Prime Minister said it was Saddam's last chance. So it's us against him, eh? Given that his country is twice the size of ours, he has rather more troops than we do, and is apparently keen to try out the very latest in unconventional techniques of mass destruction, this is probably not good news. Then again, it may just be wrong news.
Sly Saddam buys time. Sneaky Saddam Hussein managed to buy some time last night, just hours before a devastating airstrike by Britain and the US was due to begin.
Of course, it was never anything other than an American initiative with some British input. But America saving the world for democracy doesn't make the best story. So everywhere over here, it appeared as something a little more homegrown.
Now Britain is gunning for Saddam.
We want to get rid of Saddam,
reveals Blair.
Tony Blair signalled for the first time last night that the West's military build-up in the Gulf is aimed at overthrowing Saddam Hussein.
Even those editors who are willing to admit that America might have had some part to play in the battle that never was, had an odd sense of priorities when it came to giving the two allies their billing. Why Blair and Clinton were right to tough it out.
Blink and you're blitzed.
One false move in Baghdad, and we attack,
warned Blair and Clinton.
At least one paper knew why it was giving Britain such a high profile in its coverage of the war.
The Sun says, the right stuff. Tony Blair played a key role over the weekend in defending the West against Saddam.
Defending the West against Saddam? I'm not saying, you know, he's our friend, but when has he ever threatened the West? Carry on.
Not because Britain's forces in the Gulf are huge. They are not. Our contribution to the firepower aimed at Saddam is just a fifth of America's. But that's not the issue. The issue is that Britain is yet again the only nation with the integrity and guts to stand up to a dictator like Saddam.
True enough. And listen to that all-important...
Yet again.
Because we can all think of campaigns in which Britain was the only country to support the US. Not the last Gulf War, because other countries had the guts and integrity to support them. Not Somalia, because we didn't join in. Not Libya, not Korea, not Vietnam, not Grenada, not either of the world wars. Anyway, I'm sure Major General Ken Perkins can think of a couple. He is, after all, the...
Sun military advisor.
And the man who...
advised the Sun throughout the Gulf War.
Major Ken was not at all pleased with the climb down.
General Perkins said,
a golden opportunity had been missed to bring the Iraqi tyrant to heel. Saddam must be laughing his head off.
Especially if he's reading some of the British coverage of this climb down. Here's the Sun again on Tuesday.
French tipped off Saddam over Blitz. France was last night blamed for tipping off Saddam Hussein 10 minutes before 300 cruise missiles were due to rain down on Iraq.
Where did the story come from? Number 10? The White House? Le Quai d'Orsay?
Senior US Senator and Vietnam War veteran John McCain.
Who?
Senior US Senator and Vietnam War veteran John McCain insists.
It was France.
End of substantiation for the story. But that's not the silliest thing to come out of this non-war. For that, we had to look to the Sunday Times.
Israel planning ethnic bomb as Saddam caves in.
Yes, this is the world's first anti-Semitic Semitic bomb. The idea is that once developed, it will avoid Jews.
The weapon, targeting victims by ethnic origin, is seen as Israel's response to Iraq's threat of chemical and biological attacks.
After which came a few hundred words of the usual of Saddam's backing down. It wasn't until halfway through the turn that we came across the obvious problem with such a device.
A scientist said the task was hugely complicated because both Arabs and Jews are of Semitic origin.
Well, I didn't like to say anything. Now, have you noticed how after a while the big stories seem to, well, start to merge into one another? For instance, you take the current political problems of a Claphamish nature and mix with them the current palace problems of a constitutional romantic nature, and you get...
Camilla comes out.
And what a dream of a story that would be. But sadly, it was only...
Camilla comes out in spectacular style at Charles's 50th.
The party was a gift for the press, and not just because of the list of attendees. On Tuesday, Richard Littlejohn looked back.
There are dingy subterranean corners of Soho where VE Day is still being celebrated. Like Japanese soldiers, the last to leave will emerge blinking into the daylight with a copy of the News Chronicle sticking out of their raincoat pocket. They'll probably get as far as McDonald's on the corner of Dean Street before they decide they've been well off out of it since 1945 and will stumble back downstairs for a livener.
But this was nothing, said Littlejohn, compared with the Prince's jollifications.
His 50th birthday party seems to have been going on for several weeks and shows no sign of flagging. The list of partygoers included everyone from Mr. Bean to the King and Queen of the Belgians. I thought the King of the Belgians was a pub off the Finchley Road.
And don't the press love it? Not least, I suspect, because it gives the reporters a chance to use once again those skills honed on local papers reporting the mayor's garden parties. Some papers just went for the straight accounts.
Charles's 342 guests included royals.
Lord and Lady Linley, Lady Sarah Chatto and husband Daniel Chatto, Princess Alexandra and Sir Angus Ogilvy.
Friends.
Andrew Parker Bowles and his wife Rosemary. Simon Sebag Montefiore and his wife Santa.
while other journalists went for those informative little touches.
The European royals also included King Harold of Norway and Queen Sonia, who once worked as a barmaid in a Cambridge pub.
How unlike our own dear Queen. But the one question the papers didn't answer is this. If Santa Palmer Tomkinson, the Prince's friend who last week married Simon Sebag Montefiore, had instead married Prince Claus of Holland, would she now be Princess Santa Claus? Good night.
Oh, Charlie is my darling, my darling, my darling. Charlie is my darling, the young Chevrolet.
Long ago, in the heart of England, there was a beautiful castle. It was known to be the finest dwelling in the kingdom.
Today, it's the ride of a lifetime. Modern Times invites you for a free ride. Tuesday at 9:30 on BBC2.
The big boss with the six-figure salary.
Lambeth can be one of the best and leading authorities in the country.
Gets her hands dirty.
Smells going to make me sick. The whole system in Lambeth is a complete shambles.
Back to the floor, Tuesday at 9 on BBC2.
A fight for freedom now on BBC2 in Cold War.